Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dennis Brown, and this is the weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. I do these every week on Monday at noon. I normally have a specific topic that I'm training on during these lives, but today I'm just going to do Q&A. So this time that I'm going to spend here today is all yours. So if you're curious about how to start and grow a highly profitable freight broker or freight agency business, then you're in the right place. So everybody that's catching this on replay, let me know in the hashtag with hashtag replay in the comments. Truly love my replay people. For those of you that are able to join me live, awesome. Thank you for being here. Whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're at, thank you for joining me. Again, I do these trainings every week at noon, but today is exclusively dedicated to you, okay? To you, because this is all going to be Q&A, all right? So I'm going to answer any questions you guys have. I'll try to get through as many as I can. Can't promise that I'll get to all of them. It is a national holiday, and my kids are home, and we have some things planned here. Probably going to go sledding this afternoon because we just got I think about 2 feet of snow overnight. So we got crushed by snow. So we're going to probably take the girls and go sledding. And so that's my plans for the afternoon. But right now, all of my time is here dedicated to you. So for those of you that for those of you that are joining me here live, let me know the city and state that you're logging in from. I'm in the Buffalo, New York area. Again, if you let me know the city and state you're logging in from, I'll try to give you a couple shout outs, and then we'll jump into the Q&A. So hold your questions until I tell you to type the questions in the chat box. Okay, so hold the questions right now. We're going to do some shout outs, and then we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So welcome. We got a bunch of people joining us. We got Hussein from Irving, California. We've got Tamara from Bracy, Virginia. We got KO Freight from Greensboro, North Carolina. We've got Noel Arroyo from Orlando, Florida. Marty Gladden from Midgeville, Georgia. We've got Cynthia Diaz from Bakersfield, California. Rajinder from Williamsville, Virginia. We got some random Facebook user from Daytona Beach, Florida. We've got Maribel from Ocala, Florida. We got Sherwin from Atlanta, Georgia. We got Elle Marie from Lorain, Ohio. Richard Colin from Southbridge, Mass. We got Tiffany Griffin from Euless, Texas. We got Leroy from Grand Junction, Michigan. Scott. Hello, Scott. How are you? Let us know where you're from. Sherelle Durant from Newark, New Jersey. Chaka from Atlanta, Georgia. Navroop Singh from Toronto. So now we got Canada. We got 2 countries in the house. Amerifreight Enterprises from Atlanta, Georgia. Jared from Salt Lake City, Utah. And Rakalia Williams from Dallas, Georgia. Dallas, Georgia. Wow, interesting. Beth Daniels from Duluth, Georgia. And we got Start Your Logistics LLC from Long Island, New York. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate you participating. Right now, I'm going to be doing live Q&A. So I'm going to answer any questions that you have. But before we get into that, okay, notice there was no price of admission to get into this live. This is a live that I do every single week. So here's what I would ask of you if you would like me to continue these lives every Monday, okay? So if you would like me to continue these lives, do Q&A and talk about different topics week after week after week, here's all you got to do. Hit the like button no matter where you are listening, watching, viewing, whatever you're doing, okay? Hit the like button, number one. That's first and foremost. Second of all, participate along. Ask some questions and comment on other people's questions. And then most of all, here's what I want you to do right now. Hit the share button. Share this on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. Share it on LinkedIn. Share it wherever you can share it, because that is the price of admission. Like, comment, and share. Okay? So you notice there was no paywall. You didn't have to pay to get involved in this live training. Okay? Whether you're a Freight Broker Bootcamp member or past, present, or maybe you're considering becoming a Freight Broker Bootcamp member in the future, make sure you hit the like button and share the stream. And again, for those of you that are just joining me and maybe don't have a lot of background on me, my name is Dennis Brown. I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. I've built 4 multi-million-dollar companies now. One of them was a freight brokerage that I started in 2003, went on to grow that company to about $80 million in sales, sold that company in 2016. But I also am the owner of FreightBrokerBootcamp.com, which is the most cost-effective, comprehensive online freight broker training program been around for over a decade. We've trained over 10,000 students, and we offer a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee, unconditional. So you can try it before you buy it. Okay. So ultimately, that's the brief infomercial. So if those of you who are on here that are curious about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, this Q&A is free for you, but we have an entire course, an entire system, an entire program that over 10,000 people have taken, and many of them have went on to grow 6 and 7 and even 8-figure businesses. I have a student that I interviewed last year on one of these lives that does over $1 million a month in sales. Okay. So he's already got an 8-figure business. And many others know of high 6 and 7-figure business owners that have come out of Freight Broker Bootcamp. So I'm ready. Who wants to be the first one to get a question? Okay. Thank you for everybody who shared. Thank you for liking. Thank you for joining me. Okay. If you're joining me late or whether you're catching this on replay, you're always welcome. Okay. So why don't we jump into some questions and we'll see what we can do. All right. Here's a great question. Okay. So here's a question. Marty Gladden asks, when is the next sales accelerator training? Okay. So for those of you that don't know, let me give you a little bit background. Freight Broker Bootcamp is my startup introductory course. It gets you from A to Z and how to get started and start getting your first few customers and positive cash flow. Okay. That's Freight Broker Bootcamp. So that's where most people start. But after that, I was asked by people to create a Freight Broker sales specific training program. So after a decade and hundreds of people asking me to do that, last year I launched what I called my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program. It's a 5-week coaching program where I share and train you on my entire my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, and systems. Okay. So that's a 5-week program. That is not open for enrollment right now. It will probably open for enrollment in the next 30 to 60 days. I don't have a hard number on it yet. Next 30 to 60 days, pay close attention. But the only way you will be able to be a part of that program is if you are on the wait list. It doesn't guarantee you a spot in the program because I have limited spots. Last time I had 100 spots and I sold those out in just a couple of days. But if you want to get on the wait list so you're notified when we do open it up, here's all you got to do. Go to this URL, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. Okay. It costs you nothing to get on the wait list, but it does not guarantee your placement. But you will get notified as soon as we open enrollment, and you can be the first to get enrolled. Okay. So for those of you that want to be a part of the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, get on the wait list now. I can't tell you anything else. There are currently well over 1,000 people on the wait list. But again, when I send the message out, it's the first people to react. Okay. It's the first people to act on that. All right. So if you want to get on the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator waitlist, that's what you got to do. And to answer your question very specifically, I'm hoping to have it released and open for enrollment again in the next 30 to 60 days. So pay close attention. All right. Let's see what else we got. Hussein asks, do you know anyone that helps with container brokering? I need information and trainings. Okay. Freight brokering. Okay. So I'm not sure what you mean by container brokery. Okay. If you're talking about a freight broker who specializes in drayage and containers, right? That's a niche of freight brokering. The fundamentals of freight brokering are all the same. So the Freight Broker Bootcamp course will teach you that, but that is a very specialized niche, very similar to any other niche like refrigerated or heavy haul or any specialized niche. Containers and drayage has its own nuances. So that's something that I do not have a specific course about drayage, about the drayage niche. Okay. So no, I don't have that. I don't know of anybody who has that. That's something that you kind of got to learn as you go. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to help you with that, but Freight Broker Bootcamp will definitely give you the fundamentals and the basics of what you have to do in order to get started, and to start finding that niche and start identifying that niche and then start reaching out and calling on that niche, including pricing and the whole ball of wax. Okay. So I hope that helps. All right. Next question. Okay, so here's a question from Tamara Boyd. Is a surety bond required before filing for a freight broker license? No, it's not. So you can file your application with the FMCSA, which is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. There's an application that you would file with them. And then you can file that first. And upon filing it, they're going to give you an MC number. Now that MC number is going to be inactive. It's not valid yet. Okay. But that MC number is what you'll use when you reach out to a bonding company. You'll let them know that you filed your application, and then you will have a certain amount of time to get your bond, and then the bonding company will send proof of that bond to the FMCSA to show that you are bonded. Okay? So that's how it works. You do not need to have a freight broker bond before you file your FMCSA application. You do not have to have that. Matter of fact, I would recommend you not have your bond before you file your application. You've got some time there. And the only way the bonding company is going to be able to notify the FMCSA that you have a bond is if you already have an inactive MC number that they can then notify them through. Okay. So if you don't have an MC number, a bonding company can't notify them anyway. So I would file your application with the FMCSA first, and then I would get your bond. Good question. Awesome. Alicia, you're going to start classes Friday. Awesome. Kudos to you for taking action. I'm sure you'll do great. Welcome, Cynthia from Maryland. Welcome. Okay, so Christina asks, I'm interested in learning more about the business. What are the best books to purchase? I don't have any personal experience with books related to freight brokerage. Okay. I haven't written a freight brokerage related book. Instead of writing a book, I put together an entire course. It's called freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Now, it's more expensive than a book, but it's also a lot more comprehensive. And it also has a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. So I don't know that I can help you with a book. But if you're looking for books to develop skills that are important to growing a successful freight brokerage, I would tell you the skills associated with that are sales is going to be an important one. Thus, I just talked about my freight broker sales accelerator. So you could start learning about sales, whether that be through blogs or podcasts or books or training courses, whatever you want to do there. Negotiations would be a good skill to learn, right? That would be another really good skill to learn. Organizational skills would be another good skill to learn. Basic communication skills. Those are all key skills to anybody that's going to start and grow a highly profitable freight broker business. If you're going to grow a large business, then you're going to want to learn want to learn some management skills, right? So those are some other things. Those are some basic skills you can learn. I do not have a particular book that I can point you to. Nothing that I vetted or that would be anything that I would consider reliable. But again, you can join freightbrokerbootcamp.com. It goes from A to Z, teaches you everything you need to know in order to get up and running cost effectively. And it has a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. So I don't have a book, but that's the resource. You can also go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com. Let me see. I think I've got it on here. youtube.com. Oh, here you go. So I've got over 100 free training videos on how to become a freight broker or freight agent and grow a highly profitable business. If you guys want a free resource, just go to youtube.com/freight brokers. Okay. You can subscribe there. Just subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and you'll get notified every time a new free training comes out. And I do these trainings weekly, right? So that would be another good resource for you above and beyond a book. So I hope that helps. All right. Okay, so here's a question from Scott, Chicago. Did you market and sell your freight broker software you created for your company? No, I never sold it. I never licensed it. I never distributed it. It was for internal use only. But if you've heard my story, last week I talked about 6 things I would do different if I started my freight brokerage today. And that was one of them. I would not build my own software. So no, I would not build my own software. I invested over $1 million in that project. And the main reason why I did it is because there was not any really good viable options, what I consider to be viable options back in 2003 when I first got started. Fortunately, we're 18, 19 years later. There are tons of options. There are tons of TMSs. There are tons of there's tons of very affordable software out there that you guys can license and use to grow your business without having to go through the nightmare of trying to develop your own, right? Which is very time consuming and very expensive. But I did not sell it. No. When I sold the company retained the rights to all of that technology. I did not spin that out as a separate business. Okay, so what step do I do first? Get a surety bond or an LLC? I would get your LLC first. Okay? I would get your LLC, and then I would file your freight broker authority with the FMCSA. Then I would get your bond. That would be the order. Okay, so I'm just scrolling through questions. Bear with me here. Okay, so Raven says, I'm having trouble securing my surety bond. My credit is shot. Is there anything I can do? This is holding me back. Yeah, if you're struggling with credit, there are a lot of people that are in the same situation. Either they can't get approved for a surety bond, or the bond cost is too expensive because they have bad credit. Okay, the way the surety bond works is the better your credit, the lower your bond cost. I've seen them start as low as $900 a year, but I've also seen bad credit go as much as $9,000 a year. So the average is somewhere in the $2,000 to $3,000 per year range for a bond. Okay. And that's the primary requirement that you need in order to become a broker, to get approved with the FMCSA. So what you can do if you can't get a bond or you can't afford the bond cost, right? Start as a freight agent. I tell everybody this all the time. Start as a freight agent. You don't have to get a bond. You don't have to get a license. You don't have to do billing and collections. You don't have to pay carriers. You don't have to do any of that. All you need to do as an agent is find and service your shippers, right? So you are going to do the day-to-day finding shippers, covering loads, dispatching trucks, doing follow-up. And then after you deliver those loads out, the broker that you're working under, right, is going to do all the back end for you. You don't have to worry about TMS. You don't have to worry about insurance. You don't have to worry about surety bonds. You don't have to worry about any of that as an agent. Start as an agent, because here's the facts. If you can't make money as an agent, you're not going to make money as a freight broker. Okay. Freight brokering has a lot more requirements, a lot more risk, a lot more cost. And there's just a lot more to do as the owner of a freight brokerage than as a freight agent. So I tell everybody, if you're struggling to get started as a broker, if you're hitting obstacles, get started as a freight agent. My last year with my brokerage, my average agent made over $107,000 per year working from home. Okay. And it wasn't like they had tons of employees. They were one-man operations, most of them. And we had other agents that were earning $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, right, as an agent working for the company. And I had one agent that earned over $100,000 in 1 month, just in 1 month. Okay. That's how much commission we paid them in 1 month. So it's highly lucrative to be an agent, and it's a lot easier. Okay. A lot easier to get started. Okay. And a lot easier to manage that, right? Because you can spend all of your time dedicated on finding and supporting your customers rather than doing all the back office, right? All the distractions that aren't making you money. So that would be my recommendation to you, Raven. Rajinder asks, I'm a novice in the business, but have an opportunity for a job with family. Would I be able to put the training to work in the practical side? Absolutely, there for sure. Beyond just a very small part of the Freight Broker Bootcamp training is getting your Freight Broker authority. That's a very small part. Let's call that that's like 5% of the entire course. The rest of it is everything else about the industry, about getting shippers, about finding carriers, about doing rates, about dispatching, about setting up your office, about all of the other things that you need in order to get started. So yeah, Freight Broker Bootcamp training can definitely help you to accelerate your learning curve if you're looking to take a job inside of a freight brokerage. We've had many students that have leveraged the training to get jobs because now they could show the employer that they had actually went through an entire training program before they were ever hired, right? So that shows a lot to an employer that you went that far. And yeah, again, we offer a 60-day unconditional 100% money back guarantee. So if you're not happy, you just ask for your money back. We'll give it back. We want you to be happy. Okay. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. Okay, so Robbie Johnson asks, what freight broker software do you recommend? Okay, so there are there are three primary categories of software that you will need as a freight broker. One is a transportation management software. That's your TMS. That's where you manage your shipper loads, and that's the workflow from A to Z, from rating to posting your loads, to covering your loads, to dispatching the drivers, to delivering out the loads. That's your workflow for all of your shipper orders. Okay, that's your TMS. The other type of software you're going to need is a load board, which is a community where carriers and brokers come together and try to make a match. Carriers post their truck, brokers post their loads, and they make a match. And then some of those carriers haul loads for brokers, and that's how loads are covered. Okay, so those are called load boards. The third piece of software you're going to need if you're going to start to grow your business is what's called a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. That is mainly a sales tool, right? That is mainly for doing sales outreach and follow-up, right? So if you are prospecting, if you're in a specific niche and you've got a bunch of leads that you've made a list, you can upload those to your CRM. You can then do outbound outreach to them by phone and LinkedIn and email and all the different channels. And you can track all of that sales activity. You can track that entire sales funnel. You've heard that funnel before, right? You put a bunch of leads at the top, and then you funnel them down into prospects, and then eventually customers fall out the bottom. So that's what that tool does. So those are the three primary types of freight broker software that you're going to need. Now, you don't need all of those day one, okay? Matter of fact, you don't even need a TMS day one because you don't have any loads. So what are you worried about in managing loads when you don't have any loads? But the one software you will absolutely need to first get started if you're going to effectively become a freight broker is a load board. Okay, so here's what I would suggest. Rather than me going through all the different options, because there's hundreds of different options, I put together a blog post where you guys can check out an entire article and an entire video that I put together. Let me see if I've got, here it is. Okay, so here's what you got to do. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/blog. And then what you're going to do is in the search bar, there's a little search bar where you can search the blog articles. Type in software and you'll see an article that will pull up. You can click on it and you'll see an entire article that you can go through with different options that I've given you for each of those different categories. Okay. Plus an entire video. It's very in-depth. It's one of the most popular articles on my entire blog. Okay. So you guys can check that out. All right. So that's where you would check that out. Good question. Thanks. I hope that helped. Oh, another good question. Andre Davis asks, is co-brokering legal? Yes, co-brokering is legal. Okay. Co-brokering is legal, but even double brokering is legal, but it's unethical. Okay. So let me tell you the difference. Double brokering is where I, as a broker a load to a carrier with the expectation that one of their trucks and drivers are going to move that load for me. Okay. That's a normal broker relationship. But that carrier then rebrokers that load to another carrier and trucks that do not run under their motor carrier authority, they do not control, without my knowledge. Okay. So they do that without my knowledge. So that's why it's called double brokering. So you broker it to a carrier then brokers it to another carrier because maybe they didn't want to put their truck on it, or maybe their truck fell off, or whatever the reason is, but they do it without my knowledge, right? So that's the issue. The main difference between double brokering and co-brokering is transparency. It's honesty. It's communication. It's that other party telling me up front that they have a partner that they're going to broker this out to and giving me the option to pull that load back and cover it myself, or allowing them to do it. Now, double brokering does happen. And the problem with it is that you as the broker lose control of your shipment. So you actually don't even know who the load is being hauled by, because the person who double brokered it typically doesn't tell you that they put it on another carrier. They don't want you to know. And so that's where the unethical component comes in, right? So co-brokering, let's focus a little bit on co-brokering. So here's how a successful co-brokering relationship works. I'm a broker and my niche is heavy haul. I'm just giving you an example. My niche is heavy haul. But I run into a customer who has, let's say, I run into a prospect who has lots of reefer freight. We'll just say reefer freight, right? And I don't have any experience in reefer freight. So I'm not going to take that freight, but that customer is really asking me for help and wants to know if there's any way I can help them. A great way to service that customer is to set up a co-broker relationship with another broker that specializes in reefer freight. See, I specialize in heavy haul and they specialize in reefer freight. So we could put together a co-brokering relationship where anytime I ran into reefer freight, we could run it through that broker, right? And co-broker it together. And anytime they ran into heavy haul freight, they could run it through me as the broker. So that's what's called a co-brokering relationship. It's a cooperative, transparent relationship where both parties, right, are benefiting and both parties have full transparency as to what's going on. Okay. So co-brokering is totally legal and ethical as long as it's done right. Now, there are co-brokering agreements that you could put in place. Sometimes co-brokering happens just on a handshake, but in most cases, I would strongly suggest you put together a co-brokering relationship with a formal agreement so that everybody knows their roles and responsibilities. It's not that complicated. Now, just understand one thing. That is not how I suggest you grow your business primarily. That is a secondary strategy to grow your business. Your primary strategy to grow your freight brokerage or your freight agency is to go out direct to shippers and then service and support those shippers. That should be your primary business model. The secondary business model could be another revenue stream through co-brokering, like I described to you in this example. Okay, so I hope that helps. Okay, so here's a question from Noel Arroyo. In your opinion, and based on your experience, how reasonably quick is it possible for a CDL driver to transition to a broker, freight broker, or agent? Okay, so the question is, do truck drivers make good freight brokers, and how difficult would that transition be? I believe that truck drivers can make amazing freight brokers and freight agents. Here's why. A couple of reasons. Number one, they already speak the lingo. Okay. They understand the lingo of trucking. So that's going to come very natural to them. Number two, who knows better how to pick up and deliver a load on time in good condition with no problems than a driver? You do it all day long. So you've already got that experience that other freight brokers don't have. The average freight broker is never going to have the experience that you have. Okay. Third, you have a network of connections, not only with shippers and on the people that you've dealt with on the docks of different shippers and receivers, but other carriers. So you've got a built-in network. So I think that if you're an owner operator or you own a small fleet, adding a freight brokerage is a no-brainer for you. It will literally allow you to double, triple, quadruple your revenue without buying more trucks. But if you're a driver who's driving for someone else with a CDL, I think you can make that transition very quickly. Now, the $64,000 question is, do you have the financial resources to just quit driving and then transition in, or do you have to do it part-time? So that becomes a whole other question. Yes, you can build this business part-time, but I tell everybody you can't build it in your spare time. You got to take it very seriously. And the only way you're going to build a freight brokerage, part-time or full-time, is do it during normal business hours. Typically, shipping happens from 7 a.m. to maybe 5 p.m. Very little prospecting or sales can be done on the weekend, so it needs to be done during normal business hours. Very little freight is done covered after hours. You have to do it during normal business hours, so you'd have to accommodate your schedule that way. So I think you could do it very quickly. I can't give you a timeline because everybody's going to be different, but I think that should help answer your question. Okay, so Keisha asks, is it possible to supplement a carrier's insurance if you don't have enough coverage that a shipper wants? Okay, so there are things like gap insurance and supplemental insurance. And some of the load boards and different providers will spike insurance, I think they call it a lot of times, where you can add additional coverage on a load by load basis. Now, you have to be very careful with this, okay? Because in most cases, this is not going to be primary coverage. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an insurance professional. I owned a freight brokerage, okay? I know we used some of those products in the past. There are pros and cons to them. I would strongly suggest that you seek out those products and gain some information and some education there. I'm not the source for that, okay? I probably won't be the best source for that. There are a variety of different insurance products out there. I would check with Truck Stop. I would check with DAT. I would check for spike insurance per shipper, freight broker spike insurance type programs. Do some searching there, and I think that should help you go in the right direction. But there are ways to overcome that obstacle. It takes some creativity. It might take a little bit of extra money, but ultimately that could be a great opportunity, because what's going to happen in most cases with that, Keisha, is that most freight brokers are just going to wash their hands of it. They're not going to want to spend the time or the energy to invest in that. So you're going to have a lot less competition, which could create a lot of opportunities if you're able to overcome those obstacles. Okay, so I hope that helps. Okay, let me remove this banner. And if I haven't said it, I'm going to say it right now. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you're a fool. Okay, because I give away more free content there than most freight broker training programs charge you for. Okay, so go to youtube.com/freight brokers, hit the subscribe button, and then make sure you hit the bell, ding that little bell to make sure you get notified whenever a new video comes out. You'll get notified whenever I do a new live. You'll get notified whenever I release a new training video. And I do that all the time. There's over 100 videos on there, and it continues to grow week after week, month after month, year after year. But you don't know about it because you're not subscribed. So get subscribed. All right. What time is it here? All right, 12:30. All right. Joe Almighty asked, do you recommend getting factoring before getting customers? Well, here's the thing. It comes back to that old chicken and egg. The factoring companies would prefer you get shippers before you find a factoring company. Okay, that's a fact. They would prefer that you have shippers that you're moving freight with before you go to factoring. But some factoring companies will work with startups that don't have customers. Okay. Now, the hard part about that question is that if you don't have a factoring company before you get the shipper, right, then how are you going to pay for the load? Now, here's the reality. You could move your first load or your first few loads or your first 10 loads or more without a factoring company. But when it comes time to pay the carrier, you're going to have to figure out how to pay them. So if you do decide to move your first few loads before getting your factoring company, you're going to have to reach out to that factoring company and set up a relationship with them quickly after you start moving those first few loads, so that you can make sure that those carriers get paid on time. That's the important part. So I think it's totally okay for you to get your first few shippers, start moving some loads, and then get a factoring company. And I also believe it's okay the other way. Now, you may run into some pushback from factoring companies because you don't have shippers yet, because of course they're trying to qualify their time. And if you fail at the business and never get shippers, then they wasted their time, right? So the long and short of that is you can do it either way. If I were doing it over, I never used a factoring company, but if I were doing it over, I would get the shippers first, start moving some loads, and then I would immediately go out and get a factoring partner that I knew could factor those invoices to provide cash flow to pay the carriers and a little bit of supplemental cash flow for me to operate my business. So I hope that helps. But again, that question is difficult because I never used factoring. I had my own line of credit, so it was a little different. Okay. Okay, so here's a question from Start Your Logistics. Can you talk about the best way to calculate rates for your carriers? Okay. Well, I wouldn't necessarily calculate rates for my carriers. I would calculate rates for my shippers. But as a part of that, you need to understand what it costs to buy a truck from point A to point B. Okay, so I'm going to give you a crash course in this. Step one is go to the load boards and go to the rating tools and get a baseline of what the rating tools are saying for that lane, for that type of equipment, spot market today. Okay, so you want to get some rating analysis, some rating tools. Okay, the second step will be to go to the load boards and either post a load and wait for some calls, or search for trucks that are in that lane and call those trucks and try to negotiate a rate. The key here is you have to use some of that rating analysis that you did to try to start low, and you don't ask the carrier what they want. Oh, hey, I see you got a load posted, or I see you got a truck posted from A to B. How much do you want? Because carriers are always going to start high, shippers are always going to start low, and you got to find out the sweet spot in the middle where you can buy a truck and still add some margin to make money, right? So that was a sec. So you're going to gather some rate analysis from some of the rating tools. Then you're going to use the load boards to try to find some trucks and to evaluate what it's going to cost you to buy a truck. Once you've gathered some of that intelligence, the other tool on the rating board you can use is like a lane history. You can go back and see what trucks have been posted based on a specific equipment in a specific lane. And this is historical view back over the last 30, 60, 90 days. And if you see a carrier that's posted their truck in that lane 30, 40, 50 times, you know that they're there regularly. So that's a great carrier to call and to start negotiating and developing a relationship with, because chances are if they were there the last 30, 60, 90 days, they're going to be there in the next 30, 60, 90 days. Okay. So it's not a guarantee, but there's a very good chance, and you're going to be able to get some good rate analysis there. Another thing that you can do is you can search the load boards for loads that are running in those lanes. Okay. So you can see what other brokers are posting trucks or posting loads to that lane, and call some of those brokers. Call the brokers, do a little counter espionage, see how much they're willing to pay. And that's going to give you another baseline for how much you can pay a truck. Okay. So those are a few tips on how much you can find out how much it's going to cost you to pay a truck. And then you're going to use that data and you're going to figure out what do you think is a safe bet for covering that load? What's it going to cost you? And then you're going to add your margin on top. So if we came to the conclusion that it's $1,000 to buy a truck from point A to point B, that's the spot market to buy a truck, then I'm going to add my margin on top. Maybe I'm going to add $150 or $200 on top, and I'm going to quote the customer $1,150 or $1,200, something in that range. And then that would be a fair quote. That's going to be an honest estimate of what it's going to cost plus your margin. So that's basically how you could do some quick rating and understand what it's going to cost for a truck and what you can add on for your margin. Okay. And what you add margin is completely up to you. I strongly suggest do not bother moving loads for less than $100. It's a waste of time. So focus on a minimum of $100, but you're trying to get in that 15%, 20% range, in order for you to have a healthy brokerage where you can make money for your time, pay for all your expenses, and still stick a reasonable profit in your pocket. Okay. So I hope that helps. Batil asks, does your course cover Texas area? Do I need special license to do ports and train? No, you don't need a special license for Texas. You don't need a special license to do ports or trains, which is drayage you're talking about. No, you don't need anything special. And Texas is no different than Florida, than different than California, than different than New York, than different than Colorado when it comes to brokering. Brokering is the same. There are no special requirements for Texas. Specifically, if you are a freight broker, you are authorized by the FMCSA, which is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the same organization that licenses carriers, right? That gives carriers their authority. So yeah, you do not need anything special for Texas. Everything you learn in the course that I teach in the course will apply in Texas or California or Florida or New York or anywhere in the United States. So hope that helps. Okay, Tamara asks, what's the difference between a freight agent and a freight broker? Okay, so a freight broker is the licensed entity. They have a freight broker authority, a freight broker license that was deemed active by the FMCSA. Okay, so they are authorized by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration through a licensing and authority process that allows them to legally broker freight. Okay, so that's the freight broker. A freight agent is an independent contractor that works under a freight broker. So they have a partnership with a freight broker where they work as an independent contractor, a contract relationship, which is all revenue share. And a freight agent doesn't need a bond, doesn't need an authority, doesn't need really anything other than some desire, a little bit of training, and a willingness to, to work hard. And then they work under a broker. They work under that broker's authority, and they work on a revenue share basis. So in most cases, the agent will go out, get their own customers, move their own freight. They'll funnel it through the broker, and the agent will keep somewhere between 50 and 70% of the profit on every load, and the broker will get the remainder, right? So it's a revenue share relationship. So the broker is licensed, the agent is not. The agent builds their own business, and in a collaboration partnership has a revenue sharing relationship with the broker. Typically, again, the agents will keep between 50 and 70% of the profit, depending upon your experience, the amount of customers, your profit margins, a bunch of variables that'll go into that calculation. So I hope that helps. Okay, so James Davis says, I'd like to be fast-tracked. What do I need to do? What do I need to do to start? Number one, get trained. Number two, file for your authority with the FMCSA. Number three, get your bond. Fill all the requirements for the FMCSA, and then get your freight broker authority active. Okay, once it's active, at that point, you're going to start doing outreach to your prospects, to leads, to shippers. So you're going to have to identify your niche, and then from there, you're going to start doing outreach. Once you start doing outreach, you're going to start providing freight quotes. You then start providing freight quotes. Shippers start giving you load opportunities. You're then going to post those loads. You're then going to find a carrier that's going to cover those, that's going to haul those loads. You make the connections, dispatch the driver, deliver out the load. Then you are going to, from there, you're going to invoice your shipper. You're going to also process the invoice from the carrier, and then you're going to pay the carrier, get paid by your shipper. And then that's the end of that individual transaction. Okay, so that's the process. But how can you fast track it? The most important thing you can do is get trained. Okay, because here's the reality. The reality is, if you try to do this without any training, whether that be on the job training or online class training or some sort of coaching or some sort of education, 100% of the time you're going to run into questions that you don't know the answers to, and it's going to slow you down. And those questions can cost you money. Right? So what's the value of knowing how to connect from A to Z quickly? The fact is, it's worth tens of thousands of dollars, but some people think, they're penny wise and pound foolish. When I started my freight brokerage, I paid a consultant $10,000 to come to Buffalo and spend a week with me. Okay. And I tell everybody it was the smartest investment I ever made, because while I didn't learn, I had already done a lot of research and I knew a lot about what was going on. It filled the gaps on the things that I didn't know. And those things could have cost me millions of dollars had I not made that investment. So was I upset after the first month or the first couple months that I invested $10,000 in training? No, because I did $1.2 million our first year. Then we did 3.6 million. Then we did 6 million. Then we did 12 million. Then we did 18 million. Over the course of my career, I did over $200 million as a freight broker. Now, would I have done that had I not hired that consultant? Maybe, probably not. Okay, so that's the reality. What coaching does, what training does, what education does is it will fast track you, right? So, and I can't make it any easier. Check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee. I can't make it any easier. So that would be my suggestion. Once you're done with all the Freight Broker Bootcamp training, at that point, you decide, am I going to be an agent or am I going to be a broker? If you're going to be a broker, you're going to go through the process of getting your Freight Broker authority. If you're going to be an agent, you're then going to start finding a broker to work with. We have a job board. You can go to jobs.freightbrokerbootcamp.com, which is a job board where you guys can find jobs. Let me see if I've got it on here. Okay, yeah, you can go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/jobs. That's where anybody that wants to be an agent can find past students and other brokers that are hiring. Well, some of them are looking for experienced agents. Many of them are will take on agents that don't have experience. Okay, so I put that job board. It's the only freight broker and freight agent job board that I know of on the internet. We were the first and only specifically dedicated to freight brokers and freight agents. So I put that job board together. It was a very expensive proposition, but I did put it together in an effort to support all the students. So if you're going to be a broker, then you're going to go out and file for your authority. If you're going to be an agent, then go to that job board and find some opportunities to get hired. And then at that point, you're going to start your business and start doing outreach to shippers and start moving freight. So I hope that helps. All right, I'm scrolling. There's no real industry standard, but detention is typically somewhere between $50 and $100 an hour. That's what you're going to hear. $50 to $75 an hour is more common, but you will hear some carriers, it'll be $50 to $100 an hour for detention. Okay, so I hope that helps. Cynthia Diaz asks, for a surety bond, they go based off your credit, right? Correct. So you would fill out an application, they would run your credit, and based on your credit, the higher your credit score is, the lower your bond cost will be. The lower your credit score, the higher your bond cost will be. But if you can't qualify for a bond, or you can't afford your bond, okay, or any other part of the startup cost, start as a freight agent. Don't be crazy. Don't walk away from your dream and don't walk away from the opportunity just because you can't get licensed as a freight broker. Start as a freight agent, because if you choose, you can always build your credit up, build your cash flow up, and then later become a broker on your own if you want. You could always transition away from as an agent to a broker if you choose. Many agents will stay agents throughout their entire career because they don't want to deal with the back end, right? They just want to focus on their customers, and they get paid 50, 60, 70% of the profit. Their job is much easier, and it's highly, highly profitable as an agent. Okay. So that would be my suggestion. Oh yeah, KO Freight. RMIS is a reputable company. They've been around for many, many years. I can't speak specifically to their onboarding product, okay, because I haven't used it. But RMIS is a reputable company. So I would think that most things, we use them. I think RMIS provided us, at one point, contingent cargo. I don't think they were the only one, but we had used different providers for contingent cargo in the past, but RMIS is a reputable company. And as a matter of fact, I think now they're owned by Truck Stop. So it's a division of Truck Stop. So they're reputable. And I think that you could probably trust them. Again, specific to the onboarding product, I'm not sure, but having a system and a tool for onboarding carriers is important. So if you want to use that tool and you can afford it, then I would definitely recommend taking a closer look at it. Love it. Okay, so Aaron Erker DeSiderio says, before I had my authority, I completed your broker bootcamp course. This is my second year in business, freight sales over 1.2 million. I can't ask for much better of a testimonial than that. Aaron, here's what I want you to do. I want you to message me on Facebook through the Freight Broker Bootcamp page. I'd like to chat with you for a couple of minutes. And who knows, maybe we'll have you on a future interview where you could kind of share your story a little bit with some of the students. But I'd love to chat with you behind the scenes. Congratulations on your success. I will take a very, very, very small part of the credit. You did all the work. Congrats. I'm very, very proud of you. And thank you for the kind words. Make sure you reach out to me on my Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page, and we can chat a little bit. But again, congrats. And for everybody else out there that's curious if you can do it, I can't promise that. I couldn't promise Erin that she was going to make $1 million. I can't promise you that you're going to make $1 million. I can't promise you that you're going to make anything, because some of you are going to take the course and completely fall on your face. But that's not the problem with the course. That's the problem with you executing. Okay. So I'm not making any false promises. I'm not here to give you some get rich quick scheme. That's not my job. That's not what I do. Okay. Whether you succeed or fail, I care, but I can't control that. I can only give you the systems. I can take that piece of my brain and I can share it with you. And that's what my training program does. Okay. So if you want to expedite the process, then do what Aaron did. Invest in Freight Broker Bootcamp, go out, get your Freight Broker Authority and get to work and follow my system. Congrats, Aaron. Once again, thank you. I don't do one-on-one coaching or consulting, and there would be no difference between Texas, Florida, and California for brokering, unless you wanted to focus on a very specific niche that was Texas-based, maybe oil and gas or something like that. But but I don't know that I'm going to be able to help you. I don't do one-on-one coaching or one-off consulting projects. Okay. When I was doing coaching and consulting, my minimum project was $30,000. And I went away from doing all the coaching programs because it just took up too much time. With this type of a program and with my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, which is a group program, a coaching program, it works way better for the students and it allows me to do it at a very high level. Okay. So I hope to help. And I'm able to help a lot more people. Okay. So I'm scrolling through. We're going to see how many last questions we have here. But before we go here, how many of you right now are already students of Freight Broker Bootcamp? Hit me up in the comments with I'm a student. So let me know who in here is already a student. Right. And also, if you're curious and you're thinking about becoming a student, let me know in here. Say I'm considering becoming a student or I'm already a student. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to see the ratio of people that are in here already. Right. So we got Ariana, who's a student. We got Riyadh, who's a student. We got Tamara, who's a student. We got Tej, who's a past student and success story, who's already doing really well. We got Jacqueline, who's a student. We got Naz, who's a student. We got Buffalo Corey, who's a student. So we got a lot of current and past students in here. And we've got some people that are considering becoming a student. Here's all I can tell you. Unprompted, you just heard from one of the students that took the course and went on to build a 7-figure business. I didn't even know about that person. Okay. We're going to have a good conversation and who knows, maybe I can have them on to a future Facebook Live so you can ask them some questions direct. But here's what I can tell you. There's no risk without reward. You can't steal second with your foot on first. I can't make it any easier. Just check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com, get enrolled, go through the entire course, go through the curriculum, plug yourself into these lives every week, execute on the plan, and who knows where you can be 6 to 12 months from now. I can't promise you anything, but here's what I can promise you. I offer a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee, unconditional. If you're not happy for any reason, just send us an email and we'll send your money back. Okay. So that's the best I can do for today. Thank you, everybody. If you're considering becoming a freight broker, take into consideration some of the things you heard today. Look at all the other people that have taken the next step, right? But you're not far behind. All you got to do is follow the process. Check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. And you can quickly get up and running as a freight broker or a freight agent. Again, if you guys want to learn more for free, go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/freight brokers. You can subscribe, click the bell and get notified. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I really appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to most likely be taking my kids sledding here. We've got 2 feet of snow outside. I hope it's not freezing cold, but it is chilly out. And I want to thank you guys for being here. I will be back next Monday with another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Join me live, join me on replay, catch me on YouTube, wherever you want. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Once again, Aaron, congratulations. Congratulations to everybody who got enrolled in Freight Broker Bootcamp, and we'll see you next week.